Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Welcome to Home Bible Ministry. My name is Wayne Worry, and today we're going to continue in our series on the parables with the conclusion of Jesus' parable of the unprofitable servants. Now, if you'll remember from our last session, the parable was given to the apostles in response to their request to the Lord to increase their faith. Okay? And this is from Luke chapter 17. Okay, now, so what is faith? All right, Hebrews 11:1 says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." But what does that really mean? What it really means is faith is believing in something enough that it changes the way you live your life. Okay? And without faith, it is impossible to please God. So he gives them this parable about a landowner and his servant. All right? Now, the servant, when he comes in from plowing or feeding the cattle, he doesn't go and sit down to eat. He has other duties that he has to perform. So he would receive nothing, okay, without having performed his duties. Okay, he didn't just get paid for nothing. There was a certain set of daily duties he had to perform, and then he could sit down to eat. Okay. And in verse 9 he says, "Doth he thank that servant because he did the things that were commanded of him? I think not." All right, so there's no debt of gratitude for complying with the minimal expectation. All right, so to give you a next verse, verse 10, all right, "So likewise you, when you shall have done all those things which are commanded of you, say, We are unprofitable servants. We have done that which was our duty to do." Now, understand what profit is. Profit is above and beyond breaking even. Okay, so let me give you a modern corporate example of what we're talking about here. Okay, employers own businesses. They hire employees to perform specific tasks for a specific wage. All right, now the level of that wage is determined by the value of the employee and his skills. Okay? Not every employee is worth the money they're paid. Now, it's not just education, it's not just skill, but motivation and dedication have a lot to do with it as well. And the employer, okay, the guy that does the hiring, he is paid by the profits made by the business. Okay? That's how it works. So in that, you have three basic kinds of employees. Okay? You have those who do less than what is expected of them. Less than what they contracted for. Okay? They come to work late. They don't do everything they were supposed to do, etc., etc. They cost. They are a liability. They are not an asset. So they're not profitable by any stretch. They cost money. they are indebted to their employer. They owe the employer, okay? Those that meet the specifications, in other words, those that come to work on time, do exactly the minimum they're expected to do, and leave on time. They're break even, okay? They're not making any profit. They're only performing a specific task for a specific wage. You understand that? They're not profitable. And then you have those who go above and beyond. They profit the employer. Okay? They come in early. They do jobs that are not theirs to do. They help others to do their job. They train others to do their job. They come early and stay late. Okay? They're motivated and they're dedicated. These are profitable employees. These make money for the employer, and the employer rewards them with raises and promotions. Okay, so it's profitable for both of them. Now, in the service of God, under the law, remember this parable is given to Jews under the law. Okay, so under the law you had those who were disobedient to the covenant. All right, they caused losses. They cost. Okay, they were indebted to God. Those who only did what they were commanded to do. All right, so they were sanctified. All right, they were in the covenant. They were performing the bare minimum the covenant required, all right? But there was no spiritual growth. There was no increase of faith. Amen? And those who went above and beyond their duty, they bore precious fruit for the Lord, okay? They had their blessings increased. They had their spirituality increased. They had their faith increased. Okay? Faith is something you have to exercise in order to increase. So, the Jews, now, they were separated by God as servants. They were made stewards of God's earthly ministry to man. Amen? They were entrusted with his goods, just like we talked about in the last parable of the unjust steward. Okay? They were given his goods, his word, his statutes, his promises, his inheritance, etc., etc., etc. They were God's mouthpiece to a lost and dying world. And that's the whole point. That was the whole point of God gathering Israel, was to reach out through man to a lost and dying world. Their wages, okay, for faithful service were a land and a kingdom. In other words, Jews under the covenant of law were promised an inheritance, a land and a kingdom. God does not owe you more for doing what is your duty to do in the covenant. Neither is there an expectation of gratitude for doing your minimum. It's just like a contract with an employee, okay? If you're doing just the minimum, then don't expect God to get all teary-eyed and thankful, okay? But here's the deal with Israel, okay? Most never even kept their portion of the covenant, okay? They never even kept the commandments, okay? They didn't even meet the minimum. So, the parable, again, is given in response to the apostles as a request to increase their faith. Now, increase their faith in what? Well, it wasn't to increase their faith in God. They were obviously had faith in God already. It was to increase their faith in Him, in His ministry, in what He was saying, in His new testimony. Okay? Jesus said that was up to them. All right? Faith must be exercised to increase. Faith is increased by trusting God with what you already have. They already had far more than anyone else in all of Jerusalem had. So, again, this is a Jewish parable, just like all of them. They're all Jewish parables given to, for, and about Jews and the kingdom. All right? But this is one of the few parables that can have church application. This is one that preachers can preach, okay, and still be accurate. Fallen man needed redemption for salvation. We all know that. And God provided the solution through His Son. All who accept His Son's sacrifice are forgiven and redeemed forever. All right? But that salvation comes with certain stipulations. It comes with a covenant. It comes with a contract. Okay? You are bought with a price, just like a servant. All right? You owe God a debt of service for your redemption. God bought you from the world. He bought you from the devil. He bought you from an eternal separation from Him. Okay? So you owe God a debt of service. And God has expectations of your service to Him, just like an employer does. Okay? So, what are the minimum expectations? Well, the minimum expectations will produce an unprofitable servant. Okay? Your minimum expectations are to engage in fellowship. All right? Join a congregation of like believers. That's a minimum expectation. Your minimum expectation is to clean house. Okay? Change your friends. Change your ideas. Change your worldly lusts, etc., etc., etc. Okay? Separate yourself from the world and clean your house. All right? And study His Word. Learn of Him. Okay? Get to know Him intimately. These are minimum expectations. If you've got a Bible and it's sitting at your house somewhere, you don't really know where it is, collecting dust, you're not meeting the bare minimum. If you go to church twice a year on Christmas and Easter, you're not meeting the minimum. Okay? You're not only an unprofitable servant, you're a liability. So what would profitable service be? Profitable service would be to trust God. Okay? Trust Him with everything you have. That means in your tithes and offerings. That means loving God more than you love your money. Amen? It's in your life decisions. Are you asking God to guide and direct you when you go grocery shopping? When you go to work every day? When you do whatever it is you do every day? Are you inviting God into your life at all? Okay? In helping others. Okay? We are commanded to love the brethren. All right? To be charitable. To be ministering to others. Are you doing anything besides going to church and complaining about the color of the carpet? To bear precious fruit. Now this spans both Old and New Testament. It's all about bearing fruit. Okay? Your fruit is your testimony. It's your witness to the world. Are you representing God and His Son when you go out into public, into the community? Are you a witness to the gospel? Or are you more concerned with what your friends, what your college, what your job, what the society thinks about you? What are your priorities? And finally, building on the foundation, because your reward will be based on how you have built on the foundation of Jesus Christ. What have you done for Him? What works, what words, what actions, what anything have you done for the cause of Jesus Christ? Have you led a single person to Him? Do you even attend Sunday school and learn His Word? Okay? So if you are not doing any of these things, consider yourself an unprofitable servant. Don't expect to increase your faith by only doing what it is your duty to do. And if you're not even meeting your duty, then you're a liability and not an asset. It's all up to you. Amen? And that's what He told His disciples, His apostles. It's up to you. It's up to you to increase your faith. It's up to you to exercise your faith. It's up to you to trust God with everything you have received. Amen? Hey, thanks for coming. I pray you got a blessing. I know this went kind of long, but if you did, hey, share it with others. If you got an issue with anything I say or anything I teach, don't leave nasty comments. Write me. Ask me the question. All right? I'll be happy to respond. So we'll see you next time when we'll be doing some more from the parables on home Bible ministry.